So geo farming is one way, and I certainly encourage people to use that if they have the ability and the passion for a particular area to begin a geo farm. But what I try to do is help my agents see the master plan in making, I call it the listing go viral. So when you get your very first listing, there's kind of a system around that. And we've got 3 tiers of listing systems that we use.
This is The Agent Goldmine, where you'll find real talk, shit talk, and ambition. We're here to build real businesses and be more than your average agent. We want to know what the killers are actually doing within their businesses, the reality of it. All tactical, no fluff. So we're here to find out. Please share and enjoy.
Welcome back to the Agent Goldmine, world's best podcast. Of course, besides our guest on the show also has a podcast, Meredith Fogle in the house. She is wildly impressive from the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, and she's the geo farming queen. She's literally written the book on farming for real estate agents and has spoken as a keynote at the Greater Capital Association of Realtors Society events on this topic. We just found out that she's also speaking at Tom Ferry's Roadmap. Is that the correct? Roadmap. Perfect. Yes. His upcoming event. And as you guys probably know, Ali and I recently went to the Tom Ferry Summit and we have nothing but amazing things to say about it. So we're already really excited to talk to Meredith. Here are some stats before we dig in. She has been an agent for 28 years. And this past year alone closed 127 transactions with 85 million in volume. She is the owner and leader of a team of 17 agents and overall just a super cool person. So Meredith, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. And a nice introduction. I'm so happy to be here.
We are happy to dig into your business. I always love interviewing agents out in the DMV area because I think I'm actually going to move there. So I'm excited to get a little sneak peek as to what it's like.
Okay. Yeah.
And I know that all the realtors out there, not all of them, but usually they have their preferred locations. This is the order that I like, and I prefer Maryland over DC or whatever it is. For referrals, for those agents that are listening, what is your preferred, or do you not have any?
It's funny that you know that already, and I love that you use the term DMV. You've already got a leg up on being a future DMV area resident because only the insiders understand that the DMV is DC, Maryland, and Virginia and not the Department of Motor Vehicles. So they got there. As far as your question about a preference, it's really funny because I will say as a DMV native, typically the jurisdiction you're born in is the one that you are preferential to, and you are a hater for the other two. So, but my sister, for example, native Marylander, transplant to Virginia, and now looks down upon us Marylanders, which is not really right. But we will all claim that the traffic in the other jurisdictions is worse than in our jurisdiction. I am a Maryland resident, and I am actually only licensed myself in Maryland, but my company is licensed in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. So if you came to me and said you wanted someone who is an expert in DC, we have that resource for you, but it would not be me, although I have lived in DC also and know all of the areas, but I do only work in Maryland.
That's perfect. Let's start there. How does that structure, the team structure, look like for you, and how did you start that?
Well, I'll start with how I started it. I started it as really just a Maryland company originally, and had a lot of people wanting to join the team or the company who wanted to be licensed in all, or who were licensed in all 3 jurisdictions. It's pretty common for agents in our area to be licensed in all 3. So for a long time, I was with a brokerage who only had a Maryland license, and it limited the number of people that I could bring on, or the people that I could bring on, because if they also had the other jurisdictions, it didn't really make sense for them to hang their licenses in 2 other brokerages or, dual brokerages. So I found a company that we could partner with who enabled us to expand and begin our company in all 3 jurisdictions. So that's how I ended up with all 3. And organically, the podcast that you mentioned before, that's been a big attractor, that in the book, for agents from all over the area. And again, I was having so many people coming and saying, well, we want to join you, but we also have a DC or a Virginia license, and I couldn't accommodate them until I formed this company.
The podcast, or is that what you started first before the book? And if
It was
you,
first.
the book was 1st. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And if you happen to know, do you know what the differentiator is between the clients that you're getting from either the book or the podcast? Like which one's more?
Yes. So the book came first, and the book is all about geo farming, and it begins. It's like a blueprint for identifying, cultivating, and then dominating a geo farm. And often I find that the agents who are geo farmers are typically a little bit more experienced. They probably have already done like the kind of entry steps into becoming a successful real estate agent. They work their sphere of influence. They've done some other types of lead generation, some of the other systems. But because geo farming is so specific, takes a level of expertise, and there's a little bit of a financial investment also involved in terms of some print marketing. Usually it's agents who have some revenue already built up, ready to position toward that particular pillar that are interested in geo farming. So You Want to Be a Real Estate Agent, which is the podcast, began to talk people out of getting into real estate because we had so many people coming to us, my original co-host and I, who would be like, I think I want to be a real estate agent. And we were like, oh my gosh, we must make this look really easy. Let's tell everybody why it's actually really hard. And then what we started getting almost like from the first episode was, oh my gosh, thank you so much, guys. Now I really want to be an agent. And you told me why I will be a great agent. And we were like, uh-oh, that backfired. So now that we're making people want to be agents, maybe we should put content out that will make them be better agents. So that's how that whole podcast really started to roll. And because of that, a lot of the agents we attract from the podcast are newer agents.
Okay, so newer agents from the podcast, more experienced agents from the book. Are you on your team? Do you allow new agents to come, or what is your screening process for the team?
Yeah, it's more about the character of the agent. So we do take new agents, and we're pretty selective about who we bring on. The agents that we look for really have to fit what we kind of call our avatar, which is a growth mindset, somebody who is hungry, ready to learn, somebody who has what I kind of call that X factor in real estate. It's a little bit of personality, but there's a trustability factor that's almost intangible that I find is a harbinger of success in real estate. So I don't care so much whether a person is even dual career or what background they come from, as long as they have some goals, they're showing some passion for the business, and they have that kind of like native trustability, which I don't know if that piece of it can be taught.
And how are you screening that? Like, what does the conversation or conversations look like?
Yeah. So I usually have an initial conversation, very brief over the phone with an agent who's interested in joining or who I'm recruiting. And from there, I will recommend them. And I'm a very systems and process person too, which I know we might talk about a little bit, but we have a system around this, of course. And it's a 3-tier interview system. So I'll recommend the person to speak to my ops manager first. Interestingly, my ops manager is not native to real estate. She's native to the business world, and she's been a real estate consumer. So I find that a really good kind of a bar. She comes at it as, would I consider engaging this person in helping me buy or sell a house? And if the person fails that test, and there are other factors too, of course, we're not going to move them on to the next level. But if they succeed in that test, then they are recommended to one of our agent mentors. And that person would do another series of interviews with a bunch of questions, filling out a whole rubric. And, we score people percentage wise. And if they hit a certain percentage, then they're moved on to a third level, which would be me or my husband, who is my director of ops, to do a final interview.
What does the team structure look like? You mentioned ops manager. You also mentioned your husband having a role. So could you give us like a web outline of your organization?
Yeah. So we've got, the ops manager. We have an admin person who runs what I call like our front of office, does some interface with the agents, does a lot of our support in terms of, mailers and social media. We have a social media specialist who works for us and does our content and our posting. We have, who am I forgetting? Oh, my husband's our director of ops. So he's sort of like, I call him the heavy lifter, like the procurement department. He gets all the stuff. He knows all the tech. He troubleshoots. He literally will go do things like meet contractors at houses for people if they need to. So he does a lot of kind of the elbow grease type work and keeps the office all functional.
Do you guys have specific lanes for you are only working with buyers, you're only working with sellers, or does everyone get to work with everyone?
Thank you for listening. Out of respect for your time, we want to make this show as valuable as possible for you. So if you have any feedback on how we can improve, please let us know. DM us at Ali the Agent and The Shelby Show.
Depends on the agent. It is purely agent preference. So me personally, I pretty much only list. I very rarely work with buyers. If I do work with buyers, then I am tag teaming with my husband with the buyers for the most part. Agents, however, they come in and they can decide who they work with. That said, we're a very listing-focused company. And I have found that that old saw, you have to list to last in real estate, has a lot of truth to it. And that listing is really where you get all the leverage. With the changes coming down the pike in terms of buyer agency and payments to buyer agents, I think it's even more critical now that we really hone our listing skills and that we try to master what it looks like to be a dominant listing agent. So that's what I spend a lot of time teaching and training around. That said, if an agent wants to work with mostly buyers, they're welcome to do that. We really try to encourage our agents to tap into their strengths.
Nice. So let's get into that. How are you teaching your agents to dominate and whether that covers the geo farming, everything?
Yeah. Okay. So geo farming is one way, and I certainly encourage people to use that if they have the ability and the passion for a particular area to begin a geo farm. But what I try to do is help my agents see the master plan in making, I call it the listing go viral. So when you get your very first listing, there's kind of a system around that. And we've got 3 tiers of listing systems that we use. They're all supported by our staff. And they are everything from our listing concierge, which is like preparing for the listing, seller gifting, making the presentation customized to the seller and securing that listing, to our listing prep package, which is a listing needs staging, photography, maybe some contractor work, all of the pieces that need to go in place to make sure that the listing is beautifully presented. And then we have what I call make my listing famous. So once all the pieces are plugged in there, then we bring out the big marketing guns. So it's a suite of print marketing, online marketing, social media, and agent networking. Even things like part of what our staff does is they go deliver over door hangers before open houses so that we get as much traction as we can at those open houses. Again, all part of the plan to get a spin-off listing from that first listing. So we plug all those pieces in, and then the goal is that that listing spawns at least one more listing and probably 3 buyers. From those 3 buyers, you're going to spawn one more listing. So then that listing spawns 3 buyers and at least one more listing, and it just spreads out like a web from there. And that's the way that we really encourage our agents to focus on the listing business that is organically generated from each listing when all the pieces are in place.
Going super specific here, I want to start with the over the door hanger. What does that say?
Okay, I wish I had one to show you. What it says is, "Hey neighbor," and then it has a picture of the agent. And then it says, "We just listed your house at 123 Main Street. We're going to have it open this weekend." So this goes before the open house. We're going to have it open this weekend, Saturday and Sunday from 1 to 3. You're cordially invited to attend. We'd love to meet the neighbors. By the way, if you would like to know what your home is worth compared to the value of this house or the price of this house, scan this QR code. We'll send you a quick and easy market analysis. Hope to see you at the open house. So it's got a couple of things. We have a call to action for the neighbor to come to the open house. And then we have a QR code that they can scan that leads to the agent's website and a home valuation tool.
Before moving on to online marketing, what other sorts of print marketing are you doing?
We do a targeted postcard campaign that goes out to likely buyers for the neighborhood. We do newspaper ads. We do a brochure that goes into our houses. And then we've got a nice kind of storefront location with heavy foot traffic, and we put them in our store window as well.
Okay. And then online, what are you doing online?
Every single thing you could possibly do online, we are doing online. So we have a property-specific website. We do e-blasts to our full network of agents and to our buyer database as well. We do paid ads for our listings, so social media placed ads. We are doing Google My Business, local services ads. So kind of everywhere we can be online. And that doesn't count, the real social media platforms.
What is your budget for all of this look like? Do you know, like per listing, what is it going to cost to do this print marketing and online marketing?
Mm-hmm. And so the way that I do it is with each of my listings is this is all included and comes out of, the commission that I'm being paid. There's no additional charge or cost to the seller for anything that we do. And it depends. And the reason it depends, and I'll give you kind of an average, is that we do full house staging for vacant homes as well, which is vastly more expensive than what we call owner occupied staging, which is like a consultation with some light staging and the seller doing some, kind of checklist items. But on average, it usually ranges, it's probably about, I would say, about 1% of the total price of the house is our input as far as investment.
I'm also curious about the manpower effort. Yeah, manpower cost is what I should have said, because I was asking on like the actual cost. And then looking at all this, I'm sure, you are templates out the wazoo. I'm positive there's probably a system in which listing appointment, whatever, and it feeds admin. But that's what I'm curious about. Who is in the background doing these things, and kind of like what is the flow to making it happen efficiently?
Yeah. Yes. And to your point, everything is very streamlined and always evolving, because we have new technology, new resources all the time, new things that we're bringing in. So the best systems I find are able to evolve and adapt. So we're always having like tests with new things, but the way it basically looks, and to your point about the man hours, that's part of that investment, because I do figure out per listing how many hours the admin staff is putting in on each of these things. So what I'm trying to do is make the system that drives the staff time and the rest of it as efficient as possible. What we're doing right now is we're using Google Forms to collect information. So let's say that you, Shelby, have a listing and you've gone out to the listing and you're like, I want all the things. I want to have, concierge, I want property prep, and I want to make my listing famous. You're going to fill out 3 separate Google Forms, and each of those forms collects the information that the staff needs to know what to do with your coming soon date, your on market date, whether you need owner occupied or vacant staging, whether you want them to deliver the over the door hangers, and when you need them by, like all the things are captured in that form. The form then feeds to Asana. That's the platform that we use, workflow management, for those who don't know Asana, that the agents have visibility in, and on the back end, the admin staff also has visibility in. So the agent can anytime go in, take a look and see where, when their brochures are going to be ready, when their over door hangers are being delivered. And it's a pretty consistent, easy flow. The nice thing is too, the agents can go in, like, let's say today, for example, it's raining here in the DMV and we had photos scheduled on a house that was going to go on tomorrow. Well, guess what? We bumped photos to tomorrow. It's supposed to be a little sunnier tomorrow. So we just went into Asana, bumped the date, and then everything else just trickles from there, so that the admin team now knows we don't want the website live until, what day is that? Thursday. We don't want the over door hangers delivered until Thursday now.
Who is the one who's filling out the Google form? Is this like the agent is filling it out? Okay. So they go to the listing appointment, they present the different options to the seller, and depending on what the seller wants, collects all the information, the agent leaves, they input the Google form, which kicks off the process.
Yeah, so it's the same process for every listing. So they'll go in and we have like our way of doing it. If we're going to take a listing, we're going to do all the things. We're not going to give an option, stage or don't stage. We're not going to give an option, professional photos, not professional photos, virtual photography, not. We're doing all of the things if you're going to be listed under the list, because we have a certain, package that creates the results that we get. And we always want our listings presented to the public consistently. And we want to know we're doing everything to serve the client. So there's no like negotiating on, I want this or I don't want that. So the agent goes in and then fills out the pieces. Now, occasionally we'll have, for example, somebody who just doesn't want an open house. If that's the case, then we're not going to deliver over door hangers that tell people that they want, the open house is coming up on Saturday and Sunday. But they can go in and they can put a note into the staff that says, please adjust the over-door hanger so that it no longer mentions the open house. And it's just the, hey, neighbor, would you like to know what your home is worth based on the price of this property? Does that answer that question? But from there, it was all exactly as you said. From there, they plug it in, and then it goes into Asana. The staff takes it from there.
Curious about the manpower for the over-door hangers man, I took notes on so many things. You listed a bunch of things. Okay.
Yes.
So we have the brochures, there's the open house, there's the over-door hanger. Are those things all being, delivered by the agent, or for the agent is the one, doing the open house? Like, I guess that piece of the manpower, what does that look like?
Yeah. So it depends on what the agent wants to do and who owns the listing kind of. So again, Shelby, if it's your listing, I'm going to say to you, Shelby, do you want to do the over-door hangers yourself? Or are you planning to do both open houses, or would you like some support from other agents? One of the nice things with our newer agents is they get opportunities to do open houses, to do some door knocking, and to get their own organic lead generation going because of the volume of listings that we have. So we can rainmake a little bit for them. So let's say that you're like, nope, I'm good. You let somebody else do the open houses, or you let somebody else do the door knocking. We always have people who are willing to do that. So you can do it yourself, or we can tap in. And more frequently what happens is we say, we've got 123 Main Street coming on Thursday. Who wants to hold it open Saturday and Sunday? And would you also like to deliver the over-door hangers and have an opportunity to door knock in the neighborhood? And, people love the opportunity to do that. So it could be either way.
You mentioned agent networking as a part of your Make My Listing Famous presentation stuff. What does that mean?
That means calling, texting, and or emailing the agents who are most likely to have buyers for our listings. And that's part of kind of that local knowledge that we have. And one of the reasons that we attract and encourage Geo Farming is so that you have the ability to communicate with the agents are most likely to bring you buyers. So we want our agents to feel like they're getting some VIP treatment as well, the agents that are likely to bring us buyers, by getting, things like first knowledge of what's coming on the market the day that we sign the listing agreement and we are able to market it coming soon, reaching out to the agents who showed a similar property like that and going, hey, I know you showed this one, not sure whether your clients are still in the market or missed out on that, but we've got this coming in too. Would love to invite you to be one of the first in the door. So we get as much traction in terms of marketing as possible. And we tend to know who likes calls, who likes texts, who likes emails, and just communicate with them the way they like to be communicated with.
I'm really impressed by all of your processes. I geek out on this stuff. I have a weird question that you can totally say no to. Would you mind, is it possible for you to share your screen so we can see what Asana looks like? Is that weird?
No, let me see if I can do it.
Hold on. God.
It'll take me a minute to pull it up because I don't have it open right now.
Okay.
That's a great question, Shelby.
Feel free to say no, but I'm over here being okay, I'm, I can kind of understand the admin versus the agent, but I just love to see it all plugged together.
Well, yeah, I'll show you.
And if you're not on YouTube, now would be a good chance to switch over to YouTube to watch the Agent Goldmine as Meredith shares her friggin' Asana.
There we go. So here's the action plan for 110 Chevy Chase Street, 301. So you can see it's got this, who the assignee is, and then it's got all of the things down here. So this is one that just went under contract. You can see here, open house sign plan, links to seller, disclosures, all the stuff is in here, the website, social media, create and send the flyer, order the docs. And then because we are pending now, so what we do is, this is all the prep piece up here, and it's pretty granular. We get down into every little nitty gritty piece of.
We love granular.
Yes.
Okay. And then over here, we just have them as projects, but these are the other ones that are upcoming right here. And then down here, once it goes pending, we attach another action plan to the pending. And this is all, I rarely even look at this. This is all staff driven, and they'll send me, they'll send me a task or whatever. If there's something that I need to do, but we're still pretty early on. So you can see there's a lot of things that haven't been done yet, but all the early contract tasks have been done.
Okay. And so this takes your entire, it sounds like you can piece together depending on what type of action plan. Because I think that's cool. Like I've had checklists before, but they're normally like, and then you shift over to the transaction coordinator who has their own process to do contract to close. But actually you didn't mention transaction or listing coordinator in the beginning in your breakdown. So is that your ops and your admin who are doing this? There's not an assigned TC?
Right. So our ops manager does our transaction coordination with support of our admin. And we find it just easier to have it like all one flow. She sort of oversees everything and has her kind of specialty pieces that she's really good at. But, we like having it all in one place. We've tried it before we did this system where things were in different places, and it just felt very scattered. I feel like the more we can centralize, the more efficient we get.
Yeah. Very helpful. Thank you so much for sharing. Ali, do you have any questions? Okay. Sorry.
I do have one. So Asana specifically, that's a very steep learning curve. How are you the one that trains how to even use Asana, or who's doing that for you?
Yo, real quick, this podcast is not free. Cost of admission is sharing with a buddy who'd benefit or throwing it on your Instagram story. Tag us. We'll reshare that shit.
That's our ops manager. She's really good at that kind of technical piece. And we as an internal, just because we have a million systems, we as an internal team use Monday for our like leadership and internal workflow. But we like Asana's utility better for shared agent workflow. It feels a little, a little more intuitive, I think, for agents to use. And it's more specific to this, like each listing is kind of a project. But our ops manager, Suki, shout out to Suki. She's great with this kind of thing. She picks it up really quickly, and she'll do like a best practices, go down into our sales meeting, record things and do videos for people. And then we have an in-house intranet that we post things on that are like tutorials and resources for agents to use.
What was that system called that you post things?
It's an intranet. So it's for a company. It's just the List Realty intranet is what we call it. My husband actually built it out. And it's tied on the back end to our Google Suite. So if there is something in a Google Drive that's changed and it's just linked through our intranet, then it's obviously live updated through the Google Suite. But it feels like a website. And we like that because, there were agents who were really embracing the Google Suite and agents who really did not like the Google Suite. But everybody knows how to use a website. So we're like, if we can just make this feel and work like a website, we're going to get more buy-in and fewer questions. And that's what's happened.
What other tools, technology is helpful that you're using in your business?
Oh my gosh, so many things. Well, Highnote is a big one that we use for our presentations. So pre-listing, pre-buyer presentations, we use Highnote. For training, our kind of evergreen training content, we use Thinkific U. Kind of like a digital chalkboard or any kind of other, hosting site for educational content. We use, I'm trying to think what else do we have for tech. I have like a giant tech stack. I'm trying to go through all of the things. Oh, Follow Up Boss, that's our CRM. We use ActivePipe for drip campaigns. I'm sure there are others I'm not thinking of, but those are the big ones that kind of jump to mind.
Specifically on Highnote, this is the first time I'm hearing of this. This is highnote.io.
Yes.
What makes Highnote stand out to you? Why do you use that?
There are a couple of reasons. One is it's incredibly affordable, which seems weird, but it is very specific, the platform. It's a platform that allows us to have visibility into what the user is doing. So that's like the coolest part of it to me. So it's flexible in terms of content you can create. For example, if you want to say, do a listing presentation rather than like the old school drop off the pre-listing packet at the seller's house beforehand, you can send them a link via Highnote. And Highnote then can contain everything from, if you want a stagnant PDF, you can put it in there. You can put video content in there. You can put graphics and all sorts of different things into Highnote. And what you can see on the other end as the deliverer of the link is hotspots where the person is looking the most. So before I go into a listing, I know, did the person spend more time on the pricing piece? Did they spend more time on the marketing piece? Did they want to know about me and my services? Did they want to see what the current market stats are? Or did they not look at it at all? In which case I'm like, okay, I'm going to budget for time to do the whole presentation apparently, because they didn't even look ahead of time. So it gives me some good intel before I walk into the house and to what I'm dealing with and how much time I'm probably going to have to spend.
Okay, I find this super interesting. So you send your listing presentation out before you arrive.
Yes.
What's the theory on that?
A couple of things. One, I think it kind of gives me an edge when I walk in because I don't think any other agent is doing this kind of thing, at least in my local market. And they're seeing my professional level of presentation ahead of time. And I can say to people, this is how I market my listings too, right? Like I put my best foot forward with myself, trying to get you to have as much information as you can have and as much visibility into my process. I'm going to do the same kind of thing with your listing. So it kind of impresses to begin with. It also gives me a platform to put my past clients' testimonials. I've got some videos with my testimonials ahead of time. So I'm convincing them to use me before I even walk in the door. And it takes that onus off of me when I do walk in the door. So I can really concentrate on them, which is really the most important part when you're in front of a potential client, is getting out of yourself and focusing on their needs so that you can understand how you can best serve them. So that's a big piece of it. And also it saves me time because it used to be that my listing appointments were like 2 to 2.5 hours long. It was a lot of talking. It was a lot of presenting. And I hope that now I can, get the presentation piece done kind of ahead of time. And again, focus really on what's most important for the sellers to hear.
The selling ahead of time thing, so cool. And my husband Drake is really into marketing right now. And he's working on SEO for our website, which is so cool because, it's linked to my Calendly, and some days I'll just wake up and there'll be like appointments set on the calendar, which is amazing. But what I found is I'm very used to talking to people who already know about me, have listened to podcasts, have watched videos, have been following me on social media for years, or have had very strong referrals from, friends, family, that sort of thing. So I'm used to not having to, sell people on myself, really. And now that we're doing this SEO thing where people are literally from all over are just Googling, stumble across one of his blog, and then in the moment decide to book an appointment, I've never had such a interesting no-show rate, or people who are like, I forget, who are you? Why do I have this appointment?
Oh, wow.
It's so interesting. And so what he's talked about this morning when I had someone no-show, and I was like, what is, like, I'm not used to being blown off. And he's like, it's because we don't have a pre-sale process. And he was talking about where, in all the marketing he's doing, whenever you book a cold lead, there needs to be some sort of campaign, whether it be like video of, that's pushed to their phone and their email that has your face and it has your personality and it has testimonials and all of these things. So that way the pre-sale has already occurred by the time they hop on the call. Yes. So what you just said is so smart. And I have nothing else to say about that. Then it's smart.
Check Highnote out. The other thing that they do a great job of is training. When I first signed up for it, it was like hugely in demand. And they took so much time doing the training for each of us. And it was smart because it ensured that we all were going to utilize the product and understand it. But very, very nicely supported platform too.
So going away from the Highnote now and back to the Geo Farming, perfect opportunity for you to tell us about your book and really like, where are agents messing up in their mailers and how are you, crushing it with mailers?
Such a great question. Well, Geo Farming, the book I wrote is called Farming for Real Estate Agents. And it's really that blueprint for everything from thinking about becoming a geo farmer to being a dominant geo farmer. It even talks about exiting farming, selling your farm, if you decide to do that at the end of your career. The question about where are people messing up, there is one big misconception, I think, about geo farming, which is that it's all about mailing postcards. And I think most people that I talk to who come up to me and say, I've been geo farming for 6 months, I've got nothing from it. And I'm like, well, tell me about what you're doing to geo farm. And they're like, I've been sending postcards every single month. What else are you doing? I've been sending postcards every single month. And they say, like, call me. And they have a QR code. What else have you been doing? I've just told you, but that's not geo farming, right? That's just mailing. So geo farming is much more complex than just mailing. And I think that's one big piece of it, is recognizing that geo farming is a layered strategy that involves certainly postcard mailing, but also involves door knocking, also involves being in front of and present in and giving back to the community, involves gaining expertise, involves an online and social media strategy. So there's a lot more to it than mailing. I think secondarily, the other thing, and this is what the book addresses at the very beginning, is choosing your geo farm has to be done thoughtfully and very carefully, because if you get into a geo farm that is already dominated by several top producing agents, or you set your sights on a geo farm that you really aren't going to be that invested in, you're not going to succeed in either one of those scenarios. So I have a section that's called Choose with Your Head and one that's called Choose with Your Heart. And when you have both of those pieces together, you make a good decision through some research about where you want to focus your efforts, then you're set up to be successful.
What does the tempo look like for door knocking and like the in-person presence?
In-person presence should be at least once a month. You're out in front of your geo farm at scale, meaning hosting some kind of an event, being very present in your community. And you can start small. You don't have to be like the head of the, some giant organization. You can run a PTA event. You can, throw some kind of a community, like right now, this time of year, is a pumpkin patch thing is a big thing, or a pumpkin carving event. Do something small, but get out in front, or be part of something that already exists, an event or an organization that the community already has in place, so that you can be in front of people. The more, I always say, the more belly to belly you can be with the more people, the more likely you are to get some recognition and have some kind of like resonance within your geo farm. So that's one piece of it. In terms of door knocking, you want to try to like hit that. If you can, do it a couple of times a week, small chunks. Door knocking is exhausting, both physically and in terms of your emotional energy that you put out for people. So, again, hit it small, but make sure you're out there meeting people. When I started in this business, when I would look and see that somebody got a piece of business in my farm area and it wasn't me, I would immediately look up to see who was the person. And if I didn't know them, I'm like, that's on me. I didn't make a connection. Of course, I didn't get that piece of business.
I feel like a lot of agents think community, and maybe it's just me, and they automatically think, let me join the HOA. What are your thoughts on HOA?
Wow, that's a great question. And my personal opinion is most HOAs are too politicized to be a good avenue for us as agents if we want to win any kind of like a general popularity contest amongst the residents of our geo farm. And it takes a whole lot of time. So I was asked many times to be part of the HOA. Never did it, never ran for HOA. What I did instead is I now am chair of our Kentlands Community Foundation, which is the philanthropic branch of our community. We are the engine behind all of the social events and big programs that keep our community cohesive. So for like, we have this big 5K event with thousands of runners. We just hosted that. And I chair the foundation that makes that happen and, creates beneficiaries and takes some of the revenue from that to continue to fund the foundation. So I found a way to be in a position of leadership and altruism and giving back, but without the political component of it.
Yeah, I found the same thing where agents have joined the HOA. I would never join an HOA, but agents have joined. They're like, oh, wow, what a time commitment. Like, yeah, no, I don't know. Okay. Yeah. And you mentioned selling your farm for agents, broker owners that are at that point in the business where they're like, you know what, I've done my time. I just want to retire now. What does selling your farm look like?
Yeah. And it's so sad because so many agents are in that position and they just, shutter the business and they walk away and they don't have a retirement plan in place. They didn't have anybody to take over for them. They kind of strand the clients that they built up this relationship with over time, not realizing that there's another option. The options are basically to do either like a one-time buyout, so you can have someone come in and actually purchase the book of business for you, very similar to what a general corporation or a company would do when a new owner takes over and buys the company. You want to have someone who is financially adept and expert to give you a valuation of what the company is probably worth. And it has to be, a legal agreement, obviously. The other way of doing it, which is what a lot of agents do, it feels a little bit less structured maybe, but should still be quite structured, is what we call a referral-based diminishing buy-in to a geo farm. So if you are moving out of the geo farm, for example, Ali, then I might say, hey, for in exchange for your investment of time and continuing to stay in some manner, and it varies in front of your GeoFarm constituents over a period of time, and the 5-year period is pretty typical. And also continuing to bring me in and refer me to any business that you have as you're moving out of the GeoFarm. I'm going to give you a referral fee, and it's usually that diminishing fee, can be a different structure, but usually over a 5-year period until you finally make your graceful exit and go on to your next phase of life.
Diving deeper tactically, how does that look like when it comes to phone numbers? Because you're still, even though that you're going to be me, I'm thinking like whatever. I'm retiring. I no longer want the phone calls. I just want a commission check, and that's it. Point does the phone number switch? Am I selling my KV core, like my CRM and the process? Can we just dive deeper there?
Yeah. So if you're doing the one-time buyout, then yes, all of that should be part of the agreement, gets completely shifted. So numbers are forwarded, the agent's previous number is relinquished, and everything, including the CRM, all of the data in the CRM, any other processes and pieces in place should be completely taken over by the purchasing realtor. Now, on the diminishing referral-based buy-in piece of it, then usually, and this really works the best if you can do this kind of either way, is if you can get some sort of a partnership temporarily going where the exiting agent and you are attending appointments together, and he or she is making an introduction of the new agent to the clientele. So it sort of cements that relationship ahead of time. And maybe they're doing social media posts and videos together. So it becomes very evident that the other agent is as active and as reliable as a resource as the exiting agent is. And then in that case, you can decide the exiting agent can keep the phone number live for a while and warm transfer a new lead over to the new agent, and then eventually can transfer the phone number if they want to the new agent completely. Or in some cases, that exiting agent keeps that number live for like ever, it doesn't cost them anything. And when a new lead comes in, if the relationship is good enough, often the referral fee is gone, but that agent's going to still continue to pass the lead to the agent entering the GeoFarm.
And this is an agent that you have to trust, because you are now going into business with them, whether or not it's even a formal LLC. Like, you're going to be on the postcard with them, you're going to be in the videos with them. And if they mess up, that is your reputation, even though you're out of the business. And this isn't just in real estate either. This is in like self-storage units and laundromats where, older people, typically they're older, know like their kids don't want the business, and then they just shut it down, like you said, instead of selling it when people are looking for that. Anyway, where was I going with this? The Agent Goldmine. Okay, the golden nugget. So I think this ties, Shelby's cracking up. This ties hand in hand with the golden nugget that we get from each and every one of our guests that all the audience can find on theagentgoldmine.com. We kind of like skipped over it a little bit, or like didn't really mention this. Can you tell the audience what you've provided for us today?
Yeah. So I think that the two big ones probably that are good takeaways for everybody are the systems around listings. That is going to really create efficiency for you and your processes. And I'm happy to share links to the Google Forms, examples of the Google Forms. Anybody who wants that, I can either give them to you guys or people can hit me up for them. So that's a big one. The second one is the blueprint for farming, geofarming, and that I would say I'm happy to talk to people about it if people want to reach out and just ask me questions about what geofarming looks like. I talk about that stuff all day long. Happy to do it. You can also get the book Farming for Real Estate Agents anywhere books are sold and on Audible.
And go do it, support, send all the love, follows. And we'll get into that in just a second about like where people can find more from you. But before we go into our wrap-up questions, is there anything that we didn't hit on that you'd like to, or anything that you're just feeling in the world today you want to share?
I don't know. We hit on so much, I feel like. I think right now it's an interesting time to be in real estate, and the more kind of nimble and adept and growth-minded you can be, the better you're going to be now and in the long term. So thank you for what you guys are doing, because this is a great resource and you are enabling people to keep growing and keep learning and keep moving forward as our business evolves.
No, thank you so much for being on the show. We super appreciate it. 28 years in the business. Like I'm going to be hitting you up, especially if I move to the DMV.
Yeah, please. Oh my gosh, I would love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Okay. Our wrap up questions. You use a ton of tools, you have your systems in place. What is your favorite app or tool, either in your business or personal too?
Oh, that's such a good question. I love all my tech and all my systems.
I can tell. I love it for you.
Man, I'm going to say Monday, even though we didn't talk about that a ton. I really do love Monday, and it is applicable to a lot. I actually use Monday also for the foundation that I chair. I also run a theater company and I use it for that. So I find for workflow management, and it has a ton of bells and whistles that if you've tried Monday and haven't really tapped into it, it can do a lot more than what it looks like on the surface. It's really more than just workflow management. So I'm gonna say that.
What events are you going to in the next 12 months? Apple listeners, this short pause is to ask you for a review. Here's how to do it. Back out of the specific episode, go to the page where you see all the episodes, scroll down, keep scrolling. Perfect. Now tap those 5 stars. Thank you so much. Back to the show.
I am going to, in about a week, to, I think it's Teams for Tom Ferry. I'm a Tom Ferry coaching client, and I am actually training to be a Tom Ferry coach as well. I'm about a quarter of the way through the coaching development program, and it's like a lot. Like, we're evaluated constantly in what we're doing. It's going really well so far, but it's not a done deal. So wish me luck. Those who are listening, you'll know in January if I get accepted. But I'm going to do a Teams event in Chicago next week. And then I'm going to be speaking actually at Agent Roadmap, which we talked about earlier, for Tom, who's coming here to our Annapolis area in late October. And from there, I think I have Elite Retreat, lots of Tom Ferry stuff. Yeah, so mostly Tom Ferry events.
That's so cool. How long have you been a coaching student? What do you call them? What do you call us? Client.
I think that's about 4 years.
Okay, 4 years. Nice. And how can we help you in your business, either to help you become a coach, or like, where can we write a review for you? And just in general, how can we help you in your business?
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Yeah, on Google, that's the best place to write a review for me. And just send me positive energy around the coaching piece. You flip your brain to a very different position when you're coaching versus when you're being directive and dealing with a seller or buyer client. So that's it. And I'm growing a ton and learning a ton, but yeah, just send good vibes my way, please.
Now it is time. Where can people find you?
Anywhere online. So Instagram, I have to remember now because I just changed it. I think I'm at Meredith Fogle, the List Realty. I am on TikTok. It's if you do Meredith Fogle team, or the List Realty. I actually have profiles on like all of those names on all of the places. Facebook, LinkedIn, X, I guess it's called now. All the social media sites you can find me.
X still throws me. I'm like, what do we call it now? It's like, send a tweet. Is it like an X? Do you guys know? Like, I just X.
Oh, no. And it still has the bird. So I don't know. It's very confusing.
It's very confusing. Okay. Well, that's awesome, guys. I hope you all go and follow Meredith and give her all the support in the world. Ali and I are both big fans, Meredith. And listeners out there, if you want to hang out with me and Ali, you know where to find us on the gram. It is The Shelby Show and Ali the Agent. We want feedback. We want to be the best podcast there ever was. So what topics do you want us to go deep on? Which people do you want to talk to, break their business down and learn about their niche and specialty and all the things? Let us know. And guys, that's all we have for today. But make sure you be a bro and share this show. Bye. Thanks so much for listening, dude. If you want the golden nugget that this guest provided, see the show notes or just go straight to theagentgoldmine.com. That's where we keep all our resources for you. Till next time.